Imagine a place where more than 1 million people live crammed into less than a square mile, where houses are so tightly packed that they look like matchboxes stacked on top of each other, where children play among garbage bags while sewage flows in the open. In the air, the strong smell of tanned leather mixes with that of melted plastic. If someone described this scene to you, the first image that would come to mind would be that of a miserable slum, forgotten by everyone, a place where no one wants to enter and no one can leave. But what if I told you that this place generates more than $1 billion a year? That major international brands such as Giorgio Armani and Zara buy products manufactured right there, and that, despite all the precariousness, this slum has one of the highest literacy rates in India? Hard to believe, right? But that's exactly how it is. Today, Bello Mundo takes you inside Dharavi, the largest slum in India and one of the largest in Asia. A place that was born out of exclusion, grew up on the fly, and became an economic powerhouse that the world pretends not to see. And the story you are about to hear is one that defies all logic, because Dharavi is the kind of place you think you understand, until you get closer. Number 1. Location and general information. We begin our journey in Mumbai, the financial capital of India, a gigantic city with over 18 million inhabitants and marked by extreme contrasts. On one side, mirrored skyscrapers, 5-star hotels, and sophisticated shopping centers. On the other, informal neighborhoods where more than half the population lives. And in the middle of this scenario is Dharavi. It may just seem like another difficult name, but Dharavi is known throughout the world. It is squeezed between two of the city's main train lines, the Western Railway and the Central Railway, occupying a strategic and increasingly coveted location. But the space is tiny, just 1 square mile. Even so, between 700,000 and 1 million people live there. That's a density of over 400,000 people per square kilometer. It's one of the largest human concentrations on the planet. And unlike many slums around the world, which spring up in remote or poorly served areas, Dharavi is located in the city center. It is surrounded by infrastructure with access to expressways, shops, and upscale neighborhoods. It is so strategic that today there are plans to demolish everything and transform the area into luxury developments. But how did this place get to this point? The answer comes from far away and begins with a fishing village. Number 2. The origins. In the 18th century, long before Mumbai became the megacity it is today, Dharavi was just a small island inhabited by fishermen of the Koli ethnic group. It was a simple place surrounded by mangroves where families lived off fishing in the Arabian Sea. The Koli are the original inhabitants of the region and were there long before the city took shape. But then the colonizers arrived. First came the Portuguese, then the British, and with them came the rush to modernize Mumbai and transform the city into a major commercial port. At the end of the 19th century, the colonial government began an urban cleanup. Noisy factories, tanneries, potteries, and anything else considered a nuisance were expelled from the center. And where were these people sent? To Dharavi. First came the leather tanners from southern India, specialists in working goat and buffalo hides. Then came the potters from Gujarat, who founded Kumbharwada, the pottery village, which still exists today. Finally, the embroiderers from Uttar Pradesh arrived and started the local textile industry. Each group brought its craft, its culture, its way of working. And so Dharavi began to take shape, not as a typical slum, but as an informal industrial hub. From the beginning, people lived and worked there at the same time. It was, in practice, a factory city, and over time it became much more than that. Number 3, explosive growth. But all this growth came at a cost. Dharavi grew too fast and without any planning. Narrow streets became labyrinths. Buildings were erected on top of each other with no standard, no safety, and no infrastructure. Space became a luxury. Every inch was fought over. One-room houses began to house entire families. And even so, more people kept coming, because there was something there that most poor neighborhoods don't have: opportunity. Those who couldn't find work created it. Those who didn't know a trade learned from their neighbors. The neighborhood became a living machine, where everything is reused, everything is transformed, and nothing stands still. However, with so many people in such a small space, problems also multiplied. Number 4, urban challenges. Lack of sanitation, poor housing, trash everywhere. Dharavi has become a place of extremes. While it offers income, it also exposes its residents to extremely harsh living conditions. More than 80% of residents do not have running water in their homes. The routine is to leave with a bucket in hand and walk to the nearest public tap. Bathrooms, only communal ones, a simple structure shared by dozens of families. Sewage runs in the open, garbage piles up in the alleys, and when it doesn't end up on the ground, it ends up in the hands of those who survive by recycling. Space is also a problem. The density is absurd. Tiny houses, one stuck to the other. Bedroom, kitchen, living room, and workshop, all in one room. There are places where 3 generations live in a space smaller than a parking space. When it rains, the slum turns into chaos. Alleys flood, sewage returns, diseases spread quickly. And then there is pollution. The air is heavy, smoke from burning plastic, chemical residues from tanneries, dust. Breathing in Dharavi is not easy. No wonder life expectancy there is 7 to 10 years lower than in the rest of Mumbai. It's that perverse logic. Those who need jobs the most are the ones who pay the price with their health. But Dharavi isn't all bad. It's also an impressive cultural melting pot. Number 5, cultural diversity and resistance. In Dharavi, almost a third of the population is Muslim. About 6% are Christian. The rest follow Hinduism, with small Buddhist communities scattered throughout the narrow alleys of the slum. There, southern and northern India meet every day. Families who speak Tamil share the same space with those who speak Gujarati or Hindi. Each group brought its own way of life. Their traditions, their food, their clothes, their music. And it was from this mixture that an identity was born that exists nowhere else. There are hip-hop groups, such as the Slum Gods, who have performed outside India. There is a theater school, an art gallery, and a cultural festival that takes to the streets every year. But Dharavi is not just about the stage. There is also innovation. Teenagers have created apps that help control water queues, warn of harassment risks, and even teach math and Hindi to those who cannot attend a formal school. With a literacy rate of 69%, Dharavi has the best educational index among the country's slums. It may not seem high, but it is a huge achievement given the local difficulties. And there is one detail that cannot be ignored: pride. Many people who have become wealthy continue to live there, not because they have no other options, but because Dharavi is more than a slum. It is a community. It is a support network. It is history. It is the place where it all began. But what sustains all this is not just culture, creativity, or resilience. What really sustains Dharavi is money, and lots of money. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Number 6. The billion-dollar economy. What I'm about to tell you may sound like a lie, but it's not. Dharavi moves between $650 million and $1 billion a year. 1 billion, that's right. More than the GDP of several entire countries, and all of this happens inside a slum. There are more than 15,000 one-room factories operating there, and about 5,000 companies operating within a maze of narrow alleys. Every day, 100,000 e-commerce orders leave from there. That's right, 100,000. Do you buy a leather bag in a fancy store in Tokyo, Paris, or Dubai? Don't doubt it. It may have been made in a 15-square-meter workshop in Dharavi. The leather industry there is one of the largest on the planet. Bags, wallets, belts, shoes. Everything is handmade from goat or sheep leather, since cow slaughter is prohibited in most of India. And the most curious thing is that many people who earn a lot of money in this market continue to live in the slums, because that's where the contacts, suppliers, and workers are. It's where the wheels turn. But Dharavi doesn't live on leather alone. There is also the textile industry, which is huge. Fine embroidery, special fabrics, ready-made clothes that go straight to national and international markets. There is traditional pottery, made by families who have been there for over a century. Bowls, vases, decorative pieces, all molded from clay, fired in artisanal kilns and sold throughout the country. And there's one more thing, a part that few people know about, but which is perhaps the most surprising of all, because Dharavi is also a powerhouse in what the rest of the world calls garbage. Number 7. The world capital of recycling. If you think recycling is something only rich countries do, Dharavi is here to dispel that myth. About 80% of all solid waste produced in Mumbai is recycled there. 80%. That's 4 times more than Singapore, for example, one of the countries with the most advanced recycling systems in the world. Every day, about 60% of the plastic discarded by more than 20 million people ends up in Dharavi. And there begins a process that is both ingenious and worrying. It all starts at the bottom. The trash is sorted by hand, white plastic on one side, colored plastic on the other. Paper here, metal there. It's painstaking work done by thousands of anonymous hands. Then the plastic goes to shredding machines, which, incidentally, are built right there with recycled parts. The material is turned into granules that are sold to factories in China and other countries. PET bottles become fabric. Aluminum cans become car parts. Computer boards are dismantled and reused. Nothing is wasted. Around 250,000 people work directly in this process. That is almost a quarter of Dharavi's population, living off turning trash into money. This recycling industry alone generates around $840 million a year. And the contrast with the rest of the world is enormous. While in many countries recycling is still seen as a side job or marginalized work, in Dharavi it has become a structured sector with a logic of production, export, and profit. Number 8. The Remodeling Plan. The history of Dharavi has reached a tense point. Since the early 2000s, powerful people have wanted to transform the entire area. A new neighborhood, clean, planned, with luxury buildings, shopping malls, wide avenues, tree-lined sidewalks, and a postcard-perfect landscape. At the forefront of this project is Gautam Adani, one of the richest men in the world. And the proposal is not small. It is almost $3 billion to tear down the entire slum and rebuild a new Mumbai in its place. The idea, on paper, is quite appealing. Those who live there would get a brand new apartment. The rest of the space would become a shopping center, offices, business towers, a new elite moving in, and an entire city moving out. But that's where the problems begin. Who guarantees that residents will receive anything if most of them don't even have title deeds? Who guarantees that a recycling worker will be able to operate on the 20th floor of a business building? What's more, Dharavi isn't just housing. It's workshops, warehouses, factories, studios, bakeries, sewing shops. It's everything together. It's an entire ecosystem that has grown over a century. If you take one part away, you destroy the rest. That's why most residents are against the project, and it's not because they don't want improvements. On the contrary, everyone wants sanitation. They want running water, they want treated sewage, they want security, they want dignity. But they want it right there, where the work happens, where relationships exist, where life pulsates. Their proposal is clear. Urbanize, but don't remove. Improve, but don't erase. Invest, but don't destroy. Because Dharavi isn't just a problem to be solved. It is also a solution that already works, and it can teach a lot to the city outside. Number 9. The future of Dharavi. And now comes the question worth almost $3 billion. What is the future of Dharavi? On the one hand, you have the city wanting to grow. Mumbai is squeezed. There is no space. And that piece of land in the center of the capital is worth a fortune. On the other hand, there are 1 million people who live there, who work there, who have built a functioning economy there, and who don't want to simply disappear from the map. It's the same dilemma we see in many parts of the world. How to modernize without erasing everything. How to bring infrastructure without expelling those who have been there for generations. How to bring dignity without destroying identity. There are projects trying to find this middle ground. Improving sanitation but without removing anyone from their homes, bringing more health, more education, more security, and at the same time formalizing existing businesses. The idea is to transform Dharavi into a model of development that is truly fair, where growth does not mean erasing the past. If it works, it could become an example for India, for several countries, for the whole world. Because Dharavi is not just a slum. It is a lesson in creativity, resilience, and collective work. A place where, despite everything, people continue to find a way out. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson. Sometimes the smartest solution comes precisely from those whom the system has left behind. Did you already know this story? Had you heard of Dharavi before? Tell us in the comments what you think of this Indian reality and how it compares to what we see here in our daily lives. And if you want to discover more fascinating places like this, subscribe to Bello Mundo. Every week we bring you stories of places that really exist, but that almost no one talks about. Thanks for joining us, and see you in the next video.